Good morning, lovely people. Up early on a Super Bowl Sunday for a 20-mile long run in the new Asics Gel-Nimbus 25. It'll be my first time crossing 20 miles. Looking forward to that achievement, and in these shoes it should be a forgiving ride. So let's see how these perform. So just past the halfway point, quick verdict, loving these shoes. It's like running on clouds. Pretty comfortable ride so far. Let's see if I'm praising them in the same manner at the end of this second half. I hope you all enjoyed that competitive game. I wish the Eagles would have won, as I am a Broncos fan and was rooting against Kansas City, but in either case it was a fun game to watch and good halftime performance in my opinion. Today's run was my first time going over 20 miles. Distance was 20.02 miles. Total time was 3 hours and 30 minutes and 7 seconds. Average pace 10 minutes 31 seconds. Average cadence was 170 steps per minute. Average heart rate was 150 beats per minute, and average power was 164 watts for the first time in my Asics Gel-Nimbus 25. I absolutely love this shoe, so I'm just going to start off with that. And even though I've done some 18 miles recently in my Clifton 8s, doing 20 miles in this, I somehow feel less exhausted now. Could be partly training, or that my Hokas were also kind of getting a little worn out, and there's additional stack height in this. But either way though, this was just phenomenal shoe to do a long run in. Quickly going over some specs, the Gel-Nimbus 25 has the FF Blast Plus Eco Cushioning, so it's a foam that is light, soft cushioning and has less impact according to Asics on the environment. Very soft. And it is a very cushioned shoes with 41.5 in the heel and a 33.5 millimeters in the forefoot for a drop of 8 millimeters. The Asics Gel-Nimbus 25 also features an Ortholite X55 sock liner, as well as the Pure Gel, new Pure Gel, where the difference from the previous versions where it would run across the entire shoe and it would also be visible. This is just now located on the heel. This does add additional comfort to the heel, and it's not as pronounced as the zoom unit on, say, a Nike Pegasus shoe, but I'll probably be more mindful of that on my next run with this shoe, and I'll go over if I do feel it and notice it in the heel and my 50-mile review. And so I'm going to start from the top and go work my way to the bottom. It has a knit upper, very comfortable. It's kind of reminds me of some of the my old Ultra Boost, but the difference is it just did not get hot in this. Now, granted, it was about 48 degrees, so I don't know how this will fare in the summer, but for now it's just very soft. And I did not overheat in this, which was very, very awesome feeling. And it's just very comfortable, and it wraps my foot very nicely. and for those who may have a wider foot, it's just pretty stretchy, where I think it will accommodate most people's feet. It has a elastic, it is a gusseted tongue, and it is pretty elastic as well, and it also has an elastic pull tab. Working my way to the midsole, it doesn't have, to my knowledge, it doesn't have, I wouldn't say it's a rocker per se, but it is quite curved, and that does help with turnover. Despite it being a very soft and cushioned, like running on clouds, I never felt that I was sinking into this shoe. I was continuously getting very good turnover and quick cadence on this shoe, that even though it's considerably heavier than some of the other shoes in this class, I was able to just quickly get my feet turning around and moving relatively quickly. Moving on to the weight for this is a size men's 8.5. It did come in at about 9.9 ounces when I weighed. And finally, the outsole. It has what's called AHAR or AHAR outsole material. And it's rubber in the most high contact areas. So pretty much on the outer sides here, and then on the main forefoot area. It does have a slight groove channel, and after 20 miles I see no considerable wear, so I can't really give a comment on the duration. And so once I get to 50 miles, I'll be doing another review going over wear on this over the time. This is my very first Asics shoe, and I could not have been happier with this purchase. While I have tried other Asics shoes at CES 2020, there was the Asics booth there, and they were showcasing their Evo Ride first version as well as their Glide Ride, and kind of comparing both of them. And one thing that they were just very considerate going over is they were, at that time, this was 2020, they were focusing on turnover and and kind of not quite a rocker, but just kind of a curvature to the shoes. And so looks like they kind of kept that going with this one, where despite the additional weights and the cushioned, you just never felt stuck. Now, how it felt going through the runs, the first 10 miles, and you look at my splits here, I went at a very easy pace, and then I slowly started picking up my pace, working towards my marathon pace there. And the first 10 miles were just smooth. I had a great time in that. It felt effortless. And once I got past mile 10 and I started picking up the pace, it was able to slowly ramp up. But once I got towards the end, granted that could have been also me being exhausted at that point, it just felt like I was really working harder to get to those faster speeds and getting that turnover in my cadence a little bit faster. Just not that it was heavy. I feel like this is a very evenly balanced shoe, where despite the extra weight, it doesn't, like as I mentioned, it reminded me of the Ultra Boost, but in that the Ultra Boost 19, which was the last one I had, it just felt so clunky. Even though it's cushioned and comfy, it felt clunky, and it felt like I was wearing bricks on my feet. This being, and that was about 11 ounces if I recall, this being around 10 ounces, it didn't feel that way at all. However, again, as you try to pick up the speed, it does take some additional effort. So this is more of a one speed or speed zone type of shoe, where you kind of just set it and forget it, and you'll be gliding through this for many miles. As I mentioned, 20 miles, and I feel better than I did in my previous 18-mile runs. Just something to note though around, and I'm not attributing this to the shoe, but around mile 12, I felt a sharp sensation on my left foot. And when I got home, I ended up checking it, and it looked like a blister that probably could have been building up. Hopefully it's not a stress fracture on my foot. I will update that you all in a few days to see how that does. And that could have been just mostly from overtraining. But in the spirit of being transparent and honest, I just figured I'd mention that. But I'm not attributing that to the shoe. This is such a, my other foot just felt great. There's really no ground contact feel. And so just first impression, just wow. I highly recommend this. If you, I guess, just initial thoughts, if you have a decent running rotation and are looking to add a recovery shoe or a long run shoe, this is perfect. This will get the job done and kind of keep you on the low end of speed, but soft. And when you are tired at those even at the end of a heavy mileage week, this will get you through those runs. And in the spirit of trying to be a little balanced, I will go over some negatives, which honestly it's just me nitpicking at some very small details. There's really very few negatives with this shoe. But one is the tongue. It's great. It's just a little too stretchy, so putting them on is just a little bit of an odd sensation. You just have to pull really, since it is stretchy, you have to pull really hard on that. Same thing for the pull tab. Most pull tabs are kind of more string or a little bit more sturdy. You just kind of pull on it and the shoe goes on. I feel like with this, you have to pull extra hard just because this will stretch pretty far. That said though, it's just so soft and it's pretty nice actually putting your, sliding your finger in there and pulling up. And then last little nitpicky thing, it's just going to be the shoestring. They're a little long for my liking and they just kind of dangle there. Usually I just tuck any excess shoelace, I tuck them into the other shoelaces. That way it doesn't just flop around. That kind of bothers me. But again, that's the nitpicky things I have to say about this. Other than that, it's just a wonderful shoe. Absolutely recommend it. If you are new to running and you are just completely starting out and have no prior running experience and are just looking to gently get into this, I would also recommend that. As again, this will just make it a very enjoyable, soft ride. If you're in the beginner where you're trying to run a little bit faster and or on a budget where you can only afford a few shoes, maybe go with something that can be a little bit more versatile. The one that comes to mind again in comparison would be like the Hoka Clifton 8, which is both soft and can function on long runs, but you can also, it's lighter, so you can pick up the pace on that and be a little bit more versatile. While I haven't had the pleasure of trying this shoe out yet, I hear the Nova Blast 3 is also a fun one that is pretty cushioned, but you can also do tempo runs, daily trainers, and probably mid-distance runs on that. But yeah, overall, I'm just so happy I have this shoe. And additionally, I also got to try this out yesterday prior to the run, walking around town with this, and it was also just very comfortable to walk around. I'm planning on taking this with me to Europe when I do my marathon, and for my couple of runs leading up to the race, as well as just walking around European cities. I think this is just gonna protect my feet and allow me to sightsee without feeling exhausted. So happy. So stay tuned for the 15-mile review, as well as some few other reviews coming along the way as I get through my training for the Paris Marathon. Thank you, and please like and subscribe.